I want you to picture this with me. It's the middle of summer, 298 people are flying home. Families are starting their holiday, scientists heading to a conference, kids with tablets and headphones. Every one of them believes the sky above them is safe. It isn't. This is the story of Malaysia Airlines Flight 17, a flight that did absolutely nothing wrong and was still destroyed in a single second over a quiet stretch of farmland. In this video, I'll walk you through the 3 hours that ended in the deadliest attack on a passenger plane in modern history. You'll hear what investigators found in the wreckage, who put the missiles in that sky, and the one assumption the whole airline industry had been making for years. The assumption that got these people killed. Stay with me, this one matters. It's July 17th, 2014. Amsterdam Schiphol Airport is packed with summer travelers. Malaysia Airlines Flight 17 is a long-haul service from Amsterdam all the way to Kuala Lumpur. The aircraft is a Boeing 777, a wide-body workhorse, one of the safest planes ever built. This particular jet, registration 9 Mike Romeo Delta, had been flying since 1997. It was in excellent condition. In the cockpit are 2 highly experienced captains, Captain Wan Amran, 49, with more than 13,000 hours in the air, nearly 8,000 of them in the 777 alone. Alongside him, Captain Logan Chu, 44. 2 first officers round out the flight deck. Behind them, 11 cabin crew. All 15 are Malaysian. On board are 283 passengers. The largest group by far are Dutch. 193 of them among the passengers are leading AIDS researchers traveling to a conference in Australia. There are whole families, there are children. They are simply people going home. The takeoff is normal, the climb is normal. The 777 levels off at 33,000 feet and settles into a long cruise east. The planned route takes the flight across Europe and over Ukraine. And here is the thing you need to understand. At that time, this was a completely ordinary path. In the 7 days before this flight, around 900 passengers plane crossed this exact region of eastern Ukraine. 37 different airlines used it. Yes, there was fighting on the ground below. A conflict had broken out months earlier between Ukraine forces and Russian-backed separatists. Ukraine had even closed the airspace, but only up to 32,000 feet. Above that line, the sky was officially open, considered safe. MH17 was cruising at 33,000 feet, 1,000 feet into safe. At 13:20 Greenwich Mean Time, the flight is handed off between air traffic controllers. The crew is told to route slightly to avoid other traffic. They calmly acknowledged. It is the last thing anyone on board ever says. At that same moment, somewhere in the fields below, a surface-to-air missile launcher tilts towards the sky and fires. The weapon is a book, a Soviet-designed system built to knock military jets out of the sky from miles away. Its warhead doesn't need to hit the plane directly. It detonates nearby and sprays the target with thousands of pieces of metal at enormous speed. The missile climbs to 33,000 feet in seconds. The warhead explodes just to the left and above the cockpit. At 13:20 and 3 seconds, every recorder on board stops the exact same instant. The flight data recorder, the cockpit voice recorder, both, no warning, no distress call. This is the part that's almost impossible to comprehend. There was no 4 minutes struggle, no emergency the pilot could fight. The forward section of the aircraft, the cockpit, the flight crew was struck by hundreds of high-energy fragments in a fraction of a single second. The 3 crew members in the cockpit were killed instantly. They never knew. The nose of the aircraft tore away and a plane that had been whole and level and ordinary just moments before broke apart in the open air. From a clear summer sky to catastrophe, faster than you can finish this sentence. The wreckage fell across the Donetsk region of eastern Ukraine, scattered over an area of roughly 50 square kilometers, across fields, across a village. All 298 people on board were killed. There were no survivors. The crash site was not a normal one. It sat inside an active war zone controlled by armed separatist groups. International investigators couldn't safely reach parts of it for days. Some areas took weeks. The world reacted with horror and almost immediately with suspicion. Within days, it was clear this was no accident, no mechanical fault, no pilot error. A civilian airliner full of holiday makers had been shut down. The Netherlands, which had lost the most people, took the lead. 2 separate investigations began. One to find out what happened and one to find out who did it. The Dutch Safety Board, the technical investigators, methodically ruled everything else out. No structural failure, no fire, no bomb inside the plane, no lightning. The damage told the story. The pattern of those thousands of tiny puncture marks matched one specific warhead, a 9 November 314 Mike carried by a Buk missile. They even recovered missile fragments from the wreckage and from the bodies of the cockpit crew. The conclusion, published in 2015, was clear. MH17 was destroyed by a Buk surface-to-air missile fired from the ground below. Then the criminal investigators went further. A joint team from the Netherlands, Australia, Malaysia, Belgium and Ukraine traced the launcher itself. Their finding, the Buk, came from the 53rd Anti-Aircraft Brigade of the Russian military, based in the city of Kursk. It was driven into Ukraine, used to fire one missile, and driven back across the border the same night. In 2022, a Dutch court convicted 3 men, 2 Russians and a Ukrainian separatist, of murder and sentenced them to life. And in 2025, the United Nations Aviation body formally found Russia responsible for the downing. Crucially, the investigators agreed on one thing. Malaysia Airlines did nothing wrong. The crew followed every rule, the route was legal, the airspace was open. And that's exactly why MH17 changed flying forever. Before this, the system worked on a quiet assumption. If a country left its airspace open, that airspace was safe to use. MH17 shattered that assumption in a single afternoon. Within a week, the World Aviation Authority, ICAO, reminded every nation of its duty to protect the skies over a conflict. A special task force was created. A new risk manual was written specifically for flying near war zones, including the threat from missiles like the Buk. Today, airlines no longer assume open airspace means safe airspace. Countries like the United States, the UK, France and Germany now actively warn their carriers away from dangerous regions and share those warnings with the world. Conflict zone advisories went from optional to essential. Every time your flight quietly routes around a troubled part of the world today, that detour traces back in part to this one. 298 people boarded a safe plane on a legal route through an open sky and never came home. They weren't part of anyone's war. They were just trying to get home. If this story stayed with you, take a second to subscribe. It genuinely helps the channel keep telling them with the care they deserve. And let me know in the comments, should the airspace over a war zone ever be left open to passenger jets? I read every reply. Thank you so much for your time.